Wow. So thank you very much. I'm seeing all the attendees coming in. Again, I want to thank everybody who's attending today. My name is Nick Esposito. I'm the head of cities here at Litterati. And I have to, say from the bottom of my heart, we're very pleased. I'm very much overwhelmed with the response to this webinar and how many people are on. I'm really excited, and we're really excited that there are so many people out there who want to learn about Litterati and all the great work we're doing with our partners and some of the great outcomes that we've been working towards. So thank you all very much. Just so everybody knows, just some housekeeping. This webinar will be recorded. So afterwards, you will get a link so you can watch the recording again. Please share it, and we will be sharing it with everybody who signed up as well. So again, really excited to be here, and I'm excited to be joined by this really incredible panel that we've put together of what you're going to hear about how important Litterati is and the work that we're doing, and how important the work is in these cities that people are doing using our platform. So today you are going to be hearing from Bianca Howard. Bianca is the Marketing and Outreach Supervisor for Wake County, North Carolina Solid Waste Management. So thank you, Bianca, for being here. We also have Janet Boscarino from CleanMemphis, the Executive Director. Excited to have her. Thank you so much, Janet. And finally, Abi Namani. He's the founder of ethos.lab.us. And just a really great thought partner that we've had at Litterati around our work in the smart city sphere. And we're really excited to be presenting to you today on the topic of preventing litter and reducing waste through data and engagement. So thanks again for being here. The way it's going to work is we're going to start off with just a quick presentation and overview of Litterati. I'm sure there's many of you who've seen our pitches before or know us pretty well. We just want to go through what we do, and then you're going to hear from our panelists and hear about the work that they're doing, and then we're going to get into a Q&A. And I'd also like to mention we have none other than our founder, Jeff Kirchner from Litterati, who's actually in the chat right now. And you can see him chatting. I can see the chats going back and forth. And he's going to be kind of keeping some dialogue going there, handling Q&As and sending me any questions. So I have no doubt that we're going to have a very ripe, amazing conversation between Janet, Abi, Bianca, and I. But we're definitely interested to hear what you all think in the audience. So we'll make some time to pull some questions from the audience and answer them as well. So once again, thank you all for being here. Thank you to our panelists, and let's dive right in. So Litterati, we are on a mission to eradicate litter worldwide. We've been around since 2015, and our platform has grown into a mobile app and a web-based dashboard that's built to inspire people to collect and analyze litter. And again, not just do cleanups, not just collect litter that's on the ground, but really understanding how the litter is happening. So we are on this mission. You're going to hear from our partners who are on this mission, and we're really excited to hopefully bring some of the cities and nonprofits and people that are on this webinar into this mission as well. So when we say that Litterati is a global litter intelligence company, we mean it. So we are in 185 countries worldwide. We have 200,000 people active on the platform. And collectively as a community, they've picked up over 9 million pieces of litter worldwide and documented it in our database, which really adds to a very robust machine learning that is run through our app that really we feel is unsurpassed in the industry now. And our partners here, again, some of you're going to hear from, are throughout the states. Where I came on back in July of 2020, and I came actually from city government. I was formerly the Zero Waste and Litter Director for the city of Philadelphia, and was really happy to kind of take the work that I was doing there, really using data to drive the policy, the legislation, the operations that we were doing to address and prevent litter, and take that learning here into Litterati, and then now get to work with all of these amazing cities all over. And when I look at this screen, I don't just see logos of different cities. I see, really deep-rooted partners. Every time I look at one of them, I think of a story. I think of something from the city, and I think that's the beauty and power of Litterati, that, we're not just providing this anonymous platform that people just sign up for and they can do what they want with. We really love working with our partners, seeing what their outcomes are and seeing the change that they're making in the world. So very excited about that. And you can see these great partners, and we're looking for this list to continue to grow. So for those of you who don't know Litterati as well, this might be your first time hearing about us, we like to operate under the maxim that a photo tells 1,000 stories. So as I said, we have a machine learning powered app that's available for free download by anybody in the Google Play Store or the App Store. It's available in 16 different languages, I believe now. And what this app does is it allows people to take pictures of litter, to, again, tell 1,000 stories from them by collecting the who, what, where, and when of litter. So the who is every time someone downloads the app, they create a profile. So now they're in our app, they're in our community collecting data. Then there's the where. Everything is GIS located. So we're able to map out where all this litter is being found. So it's GIS enabled. The when, which is, as we know, when we're in the litter industry, it's very important that litter is seasonal sometimes, even times of day, that plays a big role. So when is it happening? All of this is timestamped. And then finally, the what. And this is kind of the main power of the app here, is that we are able, through our machine learning and also user-generated tags, to collect the litter composition data on a piece of litter. So as you see in this picture, it's in the box, it's a can, it's made of aluminum, and it's Coca-Cola. These three key pieces of litter composition data are what we can use to go back into our data dashboard to provide really powerful analytics. And I'm happy to say that we are working, as you see, this is not, this is showing multi-piece detection, as we call it. So going from just being able to take a picture of one piece of litter, we are opening up the possibilities and capabilities that are coming soon to be able to take pictures in the same shot of multiple pieces of litter and tag them. So again, when you get the who, what, where, and when, all of that data goes back into our data science dashboard to turn that into advanced analytics using data science that we can give cities the insights into really understanding what are the legislative, the programmatic, the policy, the operational insights that you can have to really prevent litter at its source, to stop it from getting on your streets in the first place, to going from the reactive of just cleaning it up to the proactive of really preventing it from happening. And the way that we're doing that, and we're excited for you to hear about that today from our partners, is through two platforms that we've created specifically for cities. The first is the Resident Engagement Platform, or REP, as we like to call it. Again, a lot of people on this call are very used to sending volunteers out into the field to clean up a park, clean up a waterway, clean up a street, adopt a spot. Well, it's great that we do that initial cleanup, but how are we further engaging? How are we engaging residents in that data collection so they can understand the efficacy of collecting that data, getting it back to the municipality, and then having the municipality or the city actually use that to make some change? So this is our more outward-facing project that we're able to, or platform, that we're able to have a city kind of be at the administrator at the top, and then create what we call sub-accounts that are allowing to sign up things like different volunteer groups, different other even parts of city government, that are then able to make what we call challenges. And these challenges could be anything from a waterway challenge cleanup to a park cleanup to an adopt a spot, things of that nature. All of that data from all of those people cleaning up using our app will then go into the sub-accounts, and then all of that sub-accounts data goes to the admin. So as an admin for a city, you're seeing all of the litter composition data from all of these different cleanups that are happening. When you're getting that data, again, it's allowing you to engage people in smart cities, data collection, as your people on the ground to do that. And then when they see you use that data to actually make changes you're going to hear about today, it creates this very powerful feedback loop to keep people wanting to collect data and take this to a deeper level. The other platform that we have is the Municipal Assessment Platform, or what we like to call MAP. And it is what it sounds like. Basically, we would work with the municipality to really understand what are the pain points. Where are you having problems when it comes to litter? Is it illegal dumping? Is it your trash cans are overflowing? Is it your commercial corridors? Well, let's pinpoint certain locations throughout those areas and do more focused research using our licensed researcher app that can collect vast amounts of data on a particular segment on those locations to, again, create a very powerful data set that cities and even nonprofits and cities can use internally to really assess what is the composition of the litter that we're seeing on these pain points. Why is it happening? What can we do to prevent it? And how can we continue to evaluate to see if it's actually working? So again, we're really excited to talk about what we do here at Litterati, but talking and just talking about the platform is one thing. Actually showing and hearing right from our partners how they're using it is another. So I'm really excited to turn this over to Bianca Howard to talk about the work that she's done in Wake County, North Carolina, using particularly our municipal assessment platform, or our MAP, and our fingerprint reports. So just to give Bianca the intro that she's due, because she's done so many cool things. Bianca Howard is an environmental educator with a professional passion for trash. And she didn't just seek the garbage-driven lifestyle, but fell into the solid waste field after graduate school at the University of Florida. Go Gators. Since 2018, Bianca has served as the outreach and marketing supervisor for Wake County Solid Waste Management. Her duties include coordinating a drop-off collection program for wasted food and managing grants that help businesses and schools to reduce their waste. So with that, glowing, beautiful bio that we have, I'm going to turn this over to Bianca to walk us through the work in Wake County.
Thank you, Nick. Would you go to the next slide, please? Great. I'm so glad to be here with everyone from around the world. I'll take just a few minutes to tell you about why we chose to work with Litterati, what we learned, and what we hope to do next. I am joining you today from Wake County in this Piedmont region of North Carolina. Our vision is to be a solid waste industry leader that serves our community with innovative and fiscally responsible solutions for waste, recycling, and waste diversion, because we want to improve the quality of life and protect the environment. And we do that primarily through providing infrastructure. If you know someone in Wake County, North Carolina, that's not surprising. We're one of the fastest growing counties in the United States. We currently have a little over 1 million residents, and we operate a number of facilities, including a municipal solid waste landfill, a transfer station, and 17 different locations where residents and businesses can drop off waste for recycling and disposal. And we produce a lot of waste, more than 500,000 tons last year. We don't maintain any roads, yet we deal with roadside litter primarily through our code enforcement and outreach staff. Nick, would you go to the next slide, please? We have had a litter prevention program for 10 years and really found a way to integrate Litterati's technology as we consider what the next decade of that litter prevention campaign should look like. Our Ad60 campaign launched in January 2011 as a positive way to encourage everyone in Wake County to take responsibility for their waste. We have always focused heavily on encouraging people to 86 their trash the right way. And we've had great partnerships, including some with our local hockey and baseball teams. But recently, we began to question whether our reliance on paid advertising was really bringing us the results we wanted. So over the last few years, we've done a number of things to look at the different elements of our program and whether they were really working together as effectively as they could. We've done several citizen surveys along the way, and in 2019 and early 2020, citizen surveys showed us that awareness of 86 it really hadn't budged, particularly among new residents to the county. 86 had largely focused on a younger demographic, 18 to 34-year-olds, because of research that had showed that those residents were among the ones most likely to litter. However, the demographics of our county are changing. We are growing by over 60 residents per day, and there's really a lot of growth coming from middle-aged and older residents because of our quality of life and people who see the Wake County and the Research Triangle region of North Carolina as a great place to retire. So we saw the opportunity to work with Litterati as a way to understand our litter problem in a different way. As a division, we were spending about $40,000 a year paying private companies to pick up litter from some of our most heavily littered roads. We also were getting great input from volunteers who were borrowing what we call litter kits to do their own cleanups. Yet we just weren't sure whether we were having the impact we could have given our resources. Working with Litterati on the map helped us to get better data about what was really being littered, how much of it, and where. Nick, would you go to the next slide, please? And so it really helped us to understand what's being littered and to think about our litter problem in a new way. First, it really helped us to think about our litter in a more visual, geographic way. So the map results helped us to identify some areas where litter seemed to be a little bit worse, and that's really helpful. We have 12 towns and cities within our county, many of whom have their own programs to clean up litter or to have citizens adopt spots to clean up litter. And so looking at the map really helped us have another way of starting that conversation with our towns and cities about how we could work together. It also helped us think about engaging more residents. We know that people like getting out to pick up litter despite COVID. We've seen an increase in people wanting to borrow our litter kits to do their own cleanups. And so we're really excited about potentially using the rep to engage people more specifically around specific types of litter, and also working with towns and cities to identify places where we can improve the recycling infrastructure to try to prevent some of the litter we're seeing. Nick, if you'll go to my final slide, please. To find out more about the Ad60 program, you can visit ad60.com. Residents of Wake County are encouraged to borrow a litter kit by visiting that website. And we encourage everybody to check out our latest podcast episode by following us on Instagram at 86_litter. Nick, thanks for inviting me to be part of the conversation today.
Thank you, Bianca, and I can't wait to get more into. I have so many questions I want to ask you now, but I'm going to hold off. Because it was a perfect transition into Janet here from Memphis, and I've been to Memphis a few times. I love that picture; it makes me miss Memphis, and I'm really happy that Janet's here to talk about the REP program. So again, thank you so much, Bianca, for that great discussion over like what MAP has been able to do in Wake County, North Carolina. Another great part of the U.S. here. Have to get down there again soon too. And getting over to Janet, talking about the REP. So real quick about Janet Boscarino. She's the nonprofit and leadership professional who works with communities, schools, businesses, and government to drive collaboration around environmental and community improvement goals. Before her nonprofit career, Janet spent 20 years in business development, building relationships and launching new programs and products across the country with organizations like Goldman Sachs and First Horizon National Bank. She founded CleanMemphis, an environmental nonprofit that is focused on making Memphis a greener city. Take it away, Janet.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I appreciate being part of the conversation. I'm proud to be here with Bianca and Avi as part of this kind of showing what Litterati can do and sharing that with the world, really. So thank you. Nick, do you want to go to the next slide? Thank you. So we've been working with community groups, schools, city government for years, looking at community improvement projects, bringing volunteers on, and expanding environmental education. And so when we were connected, actually Nick and I worked on a art and environment project with Philadelphia Mural Arts a couple of years ago, and that's how we connected. And so earlier last year, Nick and I reconnected about Litterati, and I began to learn about the tool and really became fascinated with how we could bring the tool to Memphis and what that could do for us here. We really focus on engaging, educating, and empowering communities to improve the environmental implications of their community. So bringing it in, we really feel like that the tool will help Memphis in a variety of ways. First of all, just identifying problem areas and allocating resources more efficiently. We have cleanup crews, the city has cleanup crews, and of course communities do cleanups. And resources are limited and stretched. And so being able to pinpoint with their data to analyze where our hotspots are, where our pain points are, and to drive crews and resources to those more efficiently is a better use of our time and resources. We also want to use the tool to empower community leaders to apply tactics and strategies to reduce litter. We have very active neighborhood groups that do windshield surveys, identify code enforcement. And so actually bringing this tool in for them really helps empower them with data and allows them to help have ownership and accountability in their communities in a new way. We also are wanting to use this tool to really invite Memphians to participate in data collection and stewardship. We have a kind of a new sense of stewardship coming out of the pandemic. I think if you saw a recent article in Time magazine that I think Waste Dive shared, there's been just a proliferation of litter and waste production. And so having people join in sort of the citizen science and accountability and stewardship is a big part of what we want to do. And then also leveraging data for strategies and partnerships for waste reduction and recycling goals. We're working with a variety of partners here locally to sort of push Memphis forward in establishing a zero waste circular economy goal. And we feel like the data that we can collect through all of our citizens and partners can help leverage that data to build a case for establishing those goals. Nick, could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. So we've set ourselves, we just brought Litterati in and we're rolling it out in 2021. So here we've set some goals for ourselves. We're rolling out for Earth Day, will be our big community-wide launch. We're wanting to have at least 5,000 downloads this year of the app for our community. We're working with a couple of civic organizations, Choose 901 and We Are Memphis. So I feel very confident in our ability to really get people excited about the app. We also want to have 3 to 5 pilot neighborhoods working with strategies and tactics, so robustly using the app. We're in training with 3 to 5 neighborhoods right now. They're very excited about it, so I'm really hopeful to see what comes out of that. We have a very robust environmental education program. It's been more targeted towards K through 8 students. So we're hoping that this app, we're targeting now our high school students. I think they're just primed for using an app for data collection and citizen science. So we're hoping this will help us expand to work with our high school students more. And then also we're currently working with, we have a strong partnership with City of Memphis Public Works and Solid Waste, and collaboration is key here in Memphis. We have a lot of issues to overcome in our city, and the only way we can do that is together. So working with our partnership with the City of Memphis, they have a storm drain adoption campaign, again, focusing on that stewardship. And so we're using the tool of Litterati to also do data collection and reporting and shout outs through the leaderboard on their Adopt a Storm Gem campaign that we'll be working with to promote and grow. Nick, could you go to the next slide, please? And I just wanted to give you a little snapshot of us, how we're rolling it out with our partners. Again, collaboration is key for us. Using our different licenses, as you'll find out more about Litterati if you choose to work with them, and I suggest you do, that you have administrator roles. So of course we have that role. Memphis City Beautiful is our local Keep America Beautiful affiliate, so they will have an administrator seat. And then also the City of Memphis Office of Performance Management, where our administration is a very data-driven city. And so we are giving them an administrative seat as well, so that they have visibility into all the working going on in the city, whether it's from our NGO partners, neighborhood groups, schools, whatever. These are the first on the Inspire licenses. These are the first neighborhood groups that we've already started to bring in and do training on. Again, we're kicking off for Earth Day, like a Thursday to Sunday, a big push. But we'll be working on looking at data collection and analysis and helping them with their messaging and intervention strategies based on the data collection. On the researcher license, Nick's mentioned those in part of the MAP package. We have a few of those licenses with our package, and we're using those with our our business improvement district partners, Downtown Memphis Commission, Memphis Medical District Collaborative. These are areas that have a very high level focus on litter abatement, property blight, graffiti abatement. And so they're excited about using the tool and having data to analyze strategies for them. And we also are using that with our city parks. Parks have been sort of a respite for us during the pandemic. They've also seen an explosion of litter. And so helping them use that tool, or having them allowed to use that tool, I think will help them in their strategies. And then finally, our campus licenses, we will use them. Shelby County Schools is the largest public school system in Tennessee. So we'll be working with Shelby County Schools, but we're also working with our local university partners. We have strong relationships with them. They do cleanup and improvement projects with us and have for years. But this allows us to really bring them on in a more robust way as citizen scientists. Lemoyne College is an HBCU here in town. It's in Soulsville, where Stax Museum and Stax Academy is. And we've been working with those students to do really very aggressive work in communities for community improvement projects around the university, identifying opportunities for vacant lot projects, for tree planting, code enforcement, beautification. So this additional layer, they're super excited about to have this sort of tool to bring about change in their community around messaging and targeted intervention strategies. So we're excited to be on board with Litterati, again, rolling out here for Earth Day in the coming weeks, and excited to see what this tool will bring for Memphis. Thank you. I'm glad to be here with you guys today.
Great. Thank you so much, Janet. And again, this is a great slide, and thank you for putting it in just to really kind of the nomenclature of Litterati. So our Inspire licenses are what those sub accounts are that I talked about. So the rep, you have multiple Inspire accounts that you would have across that are able to kind of have their own groups going and making those challenges. We also have programs set up specifically for schools, so you can really focus on your schools as well. If you don't want to just do a larger volunteer organization, we can go by the school. And then, as Janet said, for researching, yes, it's more on the map side of things. We have the deployment of researchers, but we do offer some researcher licenses to our rep partners because we want them to get in the feel of how to really evaluate the decisions that they're making based off of the crowdsourced information that they're getting. So thank you so much. And again, one leads to the next. So I saw Avi start pumping his fist when he saw City of Memphis Office of Performance Management on there. So I think that's another great, perfect segue into data and policy with Avi Namani. So not only do we work with cities, but we also have these great thought partners that we work with who are really helping us round out how the platform is going to run, how we can make it as beneficial as much as possible for cities, nonprofits across the world. So Abi Namani has worked for over a decade at the intersection of public service and technology. Abi helped build the nonprofit Code for America, growing it into a national leader in government tech. And then he was appointed as the first CDO of Los Angeles and CIO of Sacramento. Now his consultancy, EthosLabs.us, connects entrepreneurs across sectors to develop new approaches for public policy on issues ranging from sustainability to public health. Abi has taught public innovation at the University of Chicago, and he's been featured as a speaker at South by Southwest, TEDx, the World Bank, and numerous convenings around the world. It's my pleasure to bring up Abi Namani. Thank you, Abi.
Thanks, Nick. And thanks for having me and for going through that awkward introduction. Before I get started, I just wanted to say, this is my this year working with Jeff. I've known Jeff for a long time, and I work with Nick now for a little bit. It was really my real first experience in waste and litter management. And I had to tell you guys, I think I've been doing it wrong my whole career. Like the amount of energy and excitement I'm seeing in this chat room, it's amazing. It's remarkable. It's inspiring. So I think I might be getting more into this. So thank you all for that. I want to share my links to my slide, but I'm afraid you're going to crash my website. But let's talk about the slides then, and let's talk about what we're here for today. So again, thank you all for those presentations beforehand, and in particular, Janet and Bianca. And I suppose my role is to kind of provide some context of what this really means. These like two big concepts of data and policy, and when you put them together, what does that actually look like? And frankly, how do you actually implement that? And just for some context, as Nick mentioned, I've worked in a nonprofit before, I've worked inside governments before, and I've actually helped companies, both small and large. So I've kind of seen it from all three sides. And so I kind of can resonate with folks from wherever they're coming from. And I realize that oftentimes we get caught up, if you go to the next slide, Nick, in kind of this fantasy of how data can work in your city, right? It's like, oh my God, we have all this great data, right? We all hear these newspaper articles that data is a secret weapon. It's this massive untapped resource. You're like, oh great, we already have all this data, check, right? So we just have to like throw it into some really great system, right? So I remember when I was CDO of LA, a lot of companies would come and be like, pitch me this great AI system, this big data system. And I was like, this is great. And like, it turned out it was just very good at playing chess and didn't really do anything when it came to helping make actual concrete policy. So there's actual analysis that goes on here. And as you've heard, it's thoughtful analysis. And so you have to be mindful of that. It's not just some black box you can throw things in. And then you kind of hope there's some creative, groundbreaking idea. Again, another example from LA. One of the managers, one of my jobs when I was CDO as chief data officer was to help the departments address performance issues. And someone came up and mentioned, Abi, there's a lot of homelessness folks in the Santa Monica on the west side of LA. We think there's some problem with either enforcement or some kind of homelessness policy. Can you find out what's going on? I just went and talked to a fire chief, folks who deal with homeless all day. And he's like, Abi, do you know why there's more homelessness by the beach during the summer? It's the beach in the summer. So sometimes it's not a groundbreaking idea, but you just need to get clarity on it, which goes to the last piece. And I really appreciate what Janet and Bianca said about this, which is sometimes what you need is a bat and ball for policy, right? Again, having been there, you want to change something. You kind of know what's wrong. Again, using that fire department as an example, they kind of know what's happening, but they could use some data to actually inform what to do, right? To make this through the city council, for instance, or the county board, for instance, or to recruit a city partner, right? So that's where the new policy comes in. It's usually about not something groundbreaking or altogether foreign. It's about something basic, like we should reduce the size of plastic bottles, right? But again, you can't make those specific policy recommendations without having a more clear and robust understanding, which is, if you go to the next slide, more depicted here. And it's funny, I didn't actually look at Nick's slides beforehand, so I didn't know he had those like 4 little checks on how to measure good data. So we did not coordinate that. But these are fairly consistent, and as you can see, and frankly, they kind of match the 3 different people that you heard from today. So this is what data-driven policy, in my experience, really looks like. And really one takeaway, if anything you want to take from this, is it's not like a strict linear process. It's this ongoing, evolving process amongst partners. And before I go into this, let me step back for a second and just take a look at this panel, aside from the crazy random person who's just talking. And you've got a great local government leader, you've got a great community nonprofit leader, and you've got a strong technology partner, right? That's the real way data-driven policy works. And that's what we're going to see here. So first, you need good data. And as Janet, Bianca, and Nick told you, that's one thing Litterati provides, right? Very specific information, because just general information that you gather, like anecdotal reports from citizens or even 311 requests that come in, may not give you a comprehensive view of the land. And so you can't reasonably make policy off that. The other note I'll just make here is you often think you already have the data that you can use to do rigorous analysis. You usually don't, right? You think you have data, but what you really have are like lots of PDFs. Anyone want to raise their hand if all they have are lots of PDFs? Yeah, because these all used to be PDFs before. It's just because of COVID, these are all books now. But so first, you may need to get more data. Second, you want to be working with, collaboratively with community groups, right? So say you're in Jana's position, that means working with someone like Bianca, or if you're in Bianca's position, that means working with someone like Janet. Because oftentimes these community groups are going to have the resources and connections that you may not as a local government leader, right? Again, I'm coming from that perspective. For instance, when I was in Sacramento as Chief Innovation Officer, a lot of my job was community mobilization. Well, it was a lot easier to do that when I worked with community partners like the local academic institutions and nonprofits. And one thing they can do, and I want to flag this because having done this now for a long time, about 10 years around data and technology, getting good data is hard. And it's hard to just say, hey, citizens, go out there and get it for me, right? People don't respond to that. One of my friends has this great phrase that people don't always wake up wanting to be civic, right? They sometimes wake up just wanting a cup of coffee and to get through their email. So what you have to do is find creative ways to engage people. And I like the branding campaign Bianca mentioned, right? And what these nonprofits can do and those partnerships can do is identify these existing community groups that you can engage and bring tools, right? And that's where a partner like Litterati really comes into play, brings in tools and transitioning now to creative policymaking, a national expertise, right? Nick and Jeff and their team have had the benefit of working with dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of communities around the country and around the world. And so they're getting expertise. But more importantly, actually, their technology is getting better, right? You know, I mentioned this kind of black box of AI that Watson's really great at playing chess. Well, Watson's great at playing chess because Watson's played chess lots and lots of times. And Litterati is really good. The data science, as it were, is really good because it has lots of data and they've gotten it better and better and better over time. So your community, when you jump on, you're not starting from ground zero, right? You actually get to start at a foundation of intelligence and expertise to help you move forward. And then finally, when it does come to policymaking, the most important missing piece and the most exciting piece, frankly, about data-driven policymaking is the feedback loop, right? I don't care how creative the policy is, but if I can measure it, right? If I can track if that policy is actually having an impact, that's amazing, right? So that's one of the great things about a tool like Litterati or other ones is that say you make a new policy about plastic bottles. Well, engage that same group to go do the same data collection again and see, did we move the needle on that, right? Okay, and then ask yourself what worked, what didn't, and guess what? You're back in the good data phase of policymaking, right? So that's what I would like to impart everyone with is this idea that there's a value in these kinds of partnerships and it's an ongoing one. And once you start adapting this approach to data-driven policy, you'll get to match your exciting passion for litter and waste management with great tools and technology to actually have a bigger impact in your community. And frankly, that's what we're all here for anyway, right? So thank you and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Abby. Yeah, I couldn't think of a better queue up for a conversation than those three presentations. And again, really excited to get into it. But before I do, I just want to pause really quickly to say, again, we're ready to bring Litterati to your city. So you can contact me. Again, the contact information is going to go out. This recording of the webinar is going to go out as well. And one more thing I wanted to say before we get into the Q&A is just really thank if you came to this website, we had a lot of partners that went to kind of, get the word out, but particularly want to just give a shout out to Waste Dive and Smart Cities Dive. You came through those great publications. Thank you very much for having us in there and spreading the word on Litterati. So without further ado, I am going to stop sharing my screen. Like I said, you'll get all this information. We're going to do links at the end that are going to be put into the chat. And then you'll also get links with your with the follow-up email that you'll get after the webinar. But let's get into the Q&A here. All right, so we're going to start off with the Q&A just by kind of directing particular questions to particular people. So I first just want to start with Bianca. And, again, thank you for that presentation. I love the title of it, the 86ing like old ideas, like what was not happening, what's the new stuff that, you can work on, again, but basing off of what you already were doing. So what I just wanted to kind of start with through the map was what was one of the most interesting revelations of litter conditions in Wake County that you found from the data after we really went through it?
One of the most surprising findings for us was how much of the litter that was collected during our map was beverage containers. North Carolina is not a bottle bill state, but aluminum cans have been banned from landfills here since 1994 or 95, and plastic bottles have been banned from our landfills since 2011. Yet quite a lot of what the Litterati researchers found were those recyclable bottles and cans. We had thought we would find a lot of PPE with the COVID pandemic going on. So that was a surprise. Our assumptions were wrong there. But understanding that a lot of the litter was recyclable beverage containers is something we can talk with our municipal partners about, because we all want to continue to see those valuable items out of landfills and out of the environment and into a recycling stream where they can make their way to manufacturers. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, and we've seen that in some other municipalities that we're in the cities that we've been working with. Is hopefully this resonates with people on the webinars. Yeah, it's like a double whammy, right? Not only are you missing out on getting that to a material recovery facility where there could actually be, I know recycling's in a really tough spot right now with actually getting revenue from it, but then you're throwing it out on top of it and then having to collect it as litter and all the operational costs. So yeah, thank you for saying that, because I think it's a really important point. I'm glad that came through on your map data. So Janet, with the rep, I want to kind of turn over to you. So, you've been leveraging and working with communities for a long time to clean up Memphis. And again, I think what attracted us is we started, I already knew the work that I'd been down there and worked with you, but then also as we, when Litterati goes into a city, we do a lot of research on like what's already going on the ground. And we saw that there were a lot of great stuff that was already happening from your data-driven policy from government, but also so many different volunteer groups, so much that's been happening. So with all of that long time experience of doing stuff, what does Litterati really offer that's different to those cleanups? Can you get a little further into that?
Sure. So I think it offers for us just a much richer data, and it contextualizes things in a way that we weren't really looking at before. I think we would have cleanup projects, and the goal was really there wasn't a lot of analysis in it. Maybe where there was a concentration of things, but not the granularity that we get with Litterati showing the type of litter that's there. And so I think what that sort of rich data is bringing to us now at our neighborhood level, our schools, and on our high profile areas or business improvement districts is what kind of policy. We've done a couple of tests already where we're seeing that the initial sort of results are showing a lot of single use plastics, and to Bianca's point, a lot of soda bottles, just a lot of soda bottles. And so how can we've actually reached out to Coca-Cola, because Coca-Cola and Pepsi have this every bottle back sort of campaign. So maybe creating some messaging around that. So I think it really is just the rich data, the more contextualized data, rather than just having cleanups for cleanup's sake, or looking at where our pain points were in terms of just location, but really digging into what is it that we see and what kind of messaging, what kind of other intervention strategies and policies can we enact that can really shift to make a change in a positive way.
I love that. And again, that's something that, I think that's what I really attracted me to Litterati too. Like I always in my career, I've always wanted to be constructive about things. Again, I've been on the receiving end of angry Twitter messages and things about not clean conditions. And I know what it's like, but we don't want to get into the business of just like yelling at brands. I mean, it's like to work with them, to kind of show them what they can do and what the impact is and how we can work together. Does that sound about right, Janet?
Absolutely.
Awesome. And then, I have a question for Abby kind of directed to this is, thank you so much for just laying that groundwork and your images and like the whole, of kind of how the policy works. And I love, I saw things like feedback loop and really kind of closing the loop and really showing the systems thinking of bringing to this. So with that in mind, and also, your new revelations of now, like to Bianca's point, once you fall into the waste and litter world, there's just no getting out. So you're in, Abby. We're not going to let you go. So now that you're in it, how do you think using tech to prevent litter fits into this larger ecosystem of smart cities?
It's a great question. And so an interesting thing, as you all probably know, is that 311 as a concept has been around for decades now, right? And oftentimes litter, particularly bulky items, right, are reported there. So I was a little bit lying when I said I had no experience with litter because I've done a lot of work with 311. I've just never gotten to hang out with you people, which is just amazing. So I'm going to do that more often. But to your question about how this type of approach fits into smart cities, my honest answer is it's just a much more sophisticated approach than what we did 10 years ago, right? So I have this book up here for a reason, because this is what we wrote at Code for America, Beyond Transparency, in 2013, because we started to realize some of the things that you just heard, that like, you can't just have citizens go out and collect data for the sake of data, right? they're not going to do any. That's not really going to mobilize them. Or you can't just get data and be like, let's go do an analysis. You have to have a point and a focus. So I think Litterati is kind of like at the cutting edge of how you can apply these general principles that have kind of been out there for a long time in a very specific, effective way in the case of litter and waste management. Does that make sense? So it's like, this is like a really great, and again, this is why I'm involved. Just to be clear, guys, I'm not formally involved in any way. I'm just here because I enjoy the product and like the idea. And so what I like about this is it's a very clear example of that chain of data-driven policymaking I just described.
Yeah, and we, the conversations we've had, like all the long emails and everything back and forth, I really appreciate your, and the thoughts you've been able to give to us and working together. And what you touched on was just so important is this, as I've come to learn being in the waste world, is just the intersectionality of waste and litter. It's not, again, you can't just look at it from a one dimension of like, oh, there's someone's dumping, let's go get those dumpers, right? There's a whole reason of why people are dumping, the conditions, on staff. And I think I saw her hand raised, Dr. Natalie Hallinger, who's our behavioral scientist on the staff here at Litterati. And, she says, and again, this is something I've believed in as well from a behavioral science standpoint, is like littering, there's no one type of person that litters. It's circumstantial, it's contextual. There's a lot that goes into it. So it's interesting for you to hear that, Abby, is from your experience in smart cities is like, there's many issues that kind of flow into that, like multimodal transportation, energy policy, all different things in how a city works. And to kind of see it in the same lens, litter, that it's not just a straightforward, just, surface level issue.
If I could just piggyback on that, I just add one more thought, which is the exciting thing also about where we've evolved in the last, again, 10, 12 years is now we can understand that once you have that data, you can take various different cuts at it, right? What you're just saying, Nick, right? That data may tell you one thing, but then when you add some more context, I saw some questions in the chat about other APIs, like can you combine other data sets? And I think Jeff answered that you can, right? So once you start looking at this data and it's good data, and you start adopting this mentality of, oh, I can use data for policy, you're going to start seeing other opportunities, right? You're gonna be like, yeah, let me pull in 3-in-1 data. Or like, oh yeah, let me pull in weather data because that's going to be interesting to think about as well, right? There's a lot of things you start thinking about once you orient yourself to this model.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm glad you mentioned in the chat, because again, I just want to give another shout out to Jeff, not only being our founder and coming up with this whole crazy idea of why we're here, but also just being, and I know these webinars can be frustrating when you have that burning question, you want to chat back and forth, and to have someone, like Jeff with such a, under like deep knowledge of the company kind of there. Thank you so much, Jeff, for answering questions. And we'll hopefully get to some, synthesized questions from the audience. But just kind of keeping up with this, because I think there's two things I really want to see to tease out is, so let's start, and I think you just brought this up, Abby, and it kind of connects to Janet, but also work Bianca's doing around that buy-in from residents, right? Like when I'm selling into cities and I'm working with cities, that is a thing that comes up. They're like, well, are we really going to get people to like want to take pictures, to have to download an app to go do this? Is that something they're going to want to do? So, I just want to kind of open this up to everybody, is this question of, getting that kind of just that resident buy-in, someone who's actually, not just going to go out and just pick it up and throw it away, but actually document it and become that kind of like researcher, litter kind of data scientist.
I'm happy to jump in there. I think one of the questions when we first started working with one of our neighborhood groups, the first question they had is, what does this point to? They wanted to know what is coming out of the data collection. How are we going to use this? And so I think it's just really important for us when we're reaching out to community groups to really frame that. What does this lead to? How does the data collection drive change and the analysis? And so that neighborhood that we're now bringing on board has really started to see that, yeah, we have an Adopt a Trash Can campaign in Memphis. Where do they even need to go? Where are the dump sites in our neighborhood? How can we better identify them and also analyze what's there and where is it coming from? And so I think now they're really starting to see that there's value in this sort of granular data collection, and it brings it also empowers them to be involved in the solution. Where before they're a bit on the sidelines, they may do cleanup projects, but they're not really involved in influencing policy or influencing strategy at the neighborhood level around the problems there. And so this allows them to be sort of engaged in that collection and analysis that I think fosters accountability and more stewardship. So at least in our, in our work with communities, that's how I see that playing out.
That's great. No, and thank you for that. I don't know if Avi or Bianca, you have any kind of weigh in on any of that?
Oh, I have a, at some point someone emailed me, I have a really funny story about adopt hydrants. We tried to do that in our first year at Code for America. Was a cool, interesting app. We actually have a TED talk about it, but no one used it. And it got redeployed like 100 times to different cities and no one used it. And so again, that's kind of what drawn me to this system, because it is specific and because it taps into, frankly, an existing impulse that people have, right? And you guys are living examples of that people do want to have cleaner streets if they're well engaged, right? And so I think that's, don't try to have people adopt hydrants, but here they can actually adopt things that are useful.
And it's interesting you bring that up, and maybe Bianca, as you're hoping to now partake. Now you did MAP, maybe moving into more of the kind of engagement piece of using Litterati. I mean, that was one of the questions that were in the Q&A, was just on, again, I've heard this is that adoption. It's like that people going out, there's a lot of litter to clean up, taking pictures of each piece. So I don't know if, Janet, if you have any kind of, experience from Memphis that kind of goes in, or Bianca, how you've been thinking about kind of framing that to the residents as you start to kind of get people engaged, possibly through 86 or beyond.
If I can just add that we are definitely not where Janet is yet, and I'm excited to think about all the ways she's been able to engage in neighborhoods and colleges of different sizes and populations in Memphis in her effort. And that's what we're looking to do next in Wake County. We have a diverse county, and we know that litter is not the same throughout the county, and neither are the people. And I think one thing that appealed to us about Litterati is that throughout the 10 years of 86 we have seen that the most exciting part for us is, as staff, is getting to talk with people who want to make a difference. Pre-COVID, we did that at huge in-person events like the State Fair, and small things like talking to someone's HOA. And we were pleasantly surprised that even throughout the pandemic, people have continued wanting to clean up their neighborhoods. Some do it once or twice a year. Others, tell us that they are doing this every week or every month. And so what we're looking for is a way to take those efforts and as Janet said, help people really influence strategy so that they realize it's not just them and they can continue to feel empowered, but that hopefully we can work together towards prevention. In our county, we also have an international coastal cleanup effort that's been going on for 30 years. And that's great and it's wonderful, but we also think, gosh, what other things could these people do if we could reduce the amount of litter that they have to do this every year?
I was just going to echo what Bianca said about every neighborhood. Every neighborhood relates to this differently. We've had to get really specific in messaging and how we engage communities. And I would say that for some of our neighborhood leaders, it really is about changing strategies for intervention and messaging. For our college campuses, the messaging is more about being part of a global effort to reduce plastics in the ocean. That resonates with them more so than it does with someone at our neighborhood level. And so part of our Earth Day challenge is to act local, but to impact global. And so that resonates. Again, I think you just have to analyze, who are you reaching out to? If it's your school partners, or if it's, 18 to 25-year-olds, or your neighborhood groups are just really mad that people are littering and they want to, really make some change about that. All that messaging and all the strategy, even how we approach them about what the tool can do, changes depending on who we're reaching out to. So I think it's just understanding your different audiences and sort of working back from there to identify the best approach for each different group.
Can I just jump in there and say, I think that's amazing and exactly right. I want to also empathize with Bianca, though. Having worked in city government, we didn't have a marketing department. I don't know if any of you do. And I was also in the city of Los Angeles, which is pretty big. And so when we try to do marketing, when we had campaigns like this, all of us were effectively marketers while at the same time having full-time jobs, right? Actually doing other operations as well as doing the outreach. And frankly, oftentimes governments just don't have the resources or the expertise, right? And I'm happy to admit that, because as in work in government, I don't have the kind of expertise that Jeff has in marketing or that Janet has with the community, right? So I know for me, when I was in government, that was always a challenge about figuring out a way to get those resources. And I think, Bianca, I totally respect where you're coming from there. And it's good to have partners eventually to help get there, right?
And that's a good point. Again, being on this side of the table now, the biggest marketing that we have here at Litterati, and that we try to promote to the cities, is the outcome, right? When you do something, when you can boil it down to we found out this, we did this, it resulted in this, right? We have a lot of case studies. You can go to litterati.org and go to our stories of impact and find, all the great things that we've done. But that's the other side of the table. And there was a really good question that was kind of in the Q&A that it was connected to a question I wanted to ask you guys. So I asked about, getting the residents engaged, but there's this whole other world. If you're going to get the residents engaged by having an outcome, people need to carry out that outcome. And that's usually city government, and most times like operational workers and frontline people, especially in public works, right? So I'd love to see this revolutionizing and thinking of like public works getting more into just not like, oh, we just out there doing the day-to-day work. It's like using data, trying to get strategies, using, really taking this more proactive mindset. So, maybe starting off, maybe Bianca, not to put you on the spot because you're the one currently in city government right now. I'm still, I still feel like I'll always be a public servant at heart. But like, can you talk to some of those ways that you've been able to kind of translate the data, the recommendations into action, like, or at least plans to do that, to really kind of at least show the workers in like Wake County, how this actually can apply to their jobs, make their jobs better. And when they carry these things out and take these different measures using the data, it's going to just make everyone's lives better.
Well, as I said, we're not nearly where Janet is in terms of having a big strategy for how we're going to involve multiple partners. But I want to give a shout out to one of the municipalities within our county. The town of Wake Forest recently launched a Show Some Love Wake Forest campaign that's encouraging citizens within their boundaries to borrow litter kits and do their own cleanups. But they're also engaging their public works staff in this. And then they're also engaging with our State Department of Transportation to address some of the state highways that go through their town. So what I really like about their approach is it's very positive, it's consistent, frequent communication, but they are not just asking residents to do their part, but they're also engaging and have been engaging for a long time town staff. And I'd say within our county, it's addressed in a number of different ways. In some of our smaller towns, they may not yet have had the resources to have big volunteer programs looking at litter, but they've been investing considerable human resources in terms of their own employees cleaning up litter. And so one thing that we're looking forward to using as we continue to work forward is to think about how the 12 different towns and cities within our boundaries might use this. For some of them, I think it's a way to build upon the citizen volunteer programs they already have. And then for others, it's a chance to start that citizen engagement and talk about how litter is impacting the quality of life in their towns. So I see a lot of potential for how we're gonna continue to engage with our towns and cities.
Thanks. Janet, I know you're like an honorary, public works employee over in Memphis. You work a lot with public works and like in the managing director's office there. So what Bianca just said, kind of some of those ideas about that engagement of actual like public works employees, like the actual employees on the ground and what that looks like. I think that gets overlooked a lot. They're just sometimes looked at as like the robots who go do the work, and they're people who need to be engaged and be motivated and inspired to do stuff. So thanks you for that, bringing that up, Bianca. And Janet, how does that translate to Memphis?
Sure, I absolutely, Bianca, that's a great point. And I think what we've tried to do, we just did a presentation to the mayor and his Office of Performance Management, Public Works, about Litterati and the rollout. And so we're sort of co-branding it at the rollout as having the city public works as part of that. We want them to be a strategic partner in that. They have a public service corps that is a group of crews that go out to do litter pickup, so we're sharing a license with them for that. And then on our, this actually kind of goes to two questions, and I think Bianca and I we probably need to have a whole day where we just talk about sharing what we're doing here versus what you're doing there, because you're more advanced on the city side and maybe us on the community side, but we have a lot we could share. We have a great partnership with what's called the Chairman's Circle or the Greater Memphis Chamber, and which out of that came what's called Memphis Transformed, which is this multi-year campaign to really change our orientation to waste in Memphis, move us more toward a zero waste circular economy city. And part of that is a financial investment by those businesses to support campaigns around litter abatement and recycling waste reduction. And so I would urge, if there's a way for as a city to connect with your business community, they play a large role. It's inherently beneficial to them that the city is cleaner, greener, and more sustainable. And I think they've been very intrigued by Litterati as well. We did a presentation for our chamber about the power of the tool and what it can mean for Memphis. So I think that could help with marketing dollars as you try to drive promotion of the app. And then through that Memphis Transform campaign, we're also doing hero stories. So our individual neighborhood leaders that are doing great things in their communities to make their communities cleaner and greener. And then we're also selecting people from solid waste or public works to do hero stories about them as well. And we're hoping that that sort of leverages, awareness about public works in solid waste. They get a bad rap sometimes. I mean, everybody's always mad about solid waste or about public works. And so I think by trying to elevate their status and show the work that they do through this Heroes campaign, we're hoping that that sort of endears them to utilizing the tool as well, that they become part of this whole citizen science team that we're all working together. It takes all of us to solve this. We can't out clean up after people. That just doesn't work. So we've got to have everybody on board for this.
Great. And Avi, we got about maybe a minute left for a final thought from you. Do you have any, just kind of synthesize some of them?
I would just say, it's interesting. Just building off what Bianca just said is oftentimes, as we know, like this is thankless work. Government is thankless work, public service, either inside government or as a startup or as a community. So first, I just want to say thank you all. And again, it was really inspiring to see all the excitement and interest in this. And again, just don't let it, my point being is really look at this picture in your head that you see on the screen of this type of partnership. Again, taking me out of the picture. This is what you should be striving for, either as a community partner or as a local government, is this type of collaboration. So
great.
Hopefully you guys got something out of this, and all of my contact information is there. So please feel free to reach out.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much, Avi. And again, Litterati, just to touch on this is, we work with all different types of groups all over the world. We're working with NGOs, nonprofits, corporations. We do employee engagements with corporations. And then now with cities that we've really made this push, starting before, but really kind of within like the last year, also being the craziest year to, try anything new, but also why not? Because let's try new things in 2020, now into 2021. So, but as we're growing, I think Bianca, you make a really good point, and Janet, where we're seeing this grow is, Litterati kind of like starts to get the data. And as we build this ecosystem, this complex problem that we have of litter, it's going to take kind of continued work and evolution to kind of, and really looking at the data to see how it evolves. So it's really amazing to watch, Wake County go from doing a map, really understanding the impact that, what the performance is of something like 86 and how to improve it, how to take something they're already doing and making it better using the data. And again, Janet, watching this Memphis transform and using the data in ways as you kind of drive the operational. So again, we have lots of stories of impact on our site. I encourage everyone to go there. Thanks again, Jeff, for being in the chat. I know you put a bunch of links in there. Those links will also be added to the follow-up email that we'll send out to all participants again a little later with the recording of the webinar. And again, just want to thank you all. There was a lot of people on this webinar. They're still on, sticking it out here and just learning so much about what we're doing. I'm sure you're doing some great stuff in your cities and your organizations, and we're really excited to get working with you. So again, I want to thank Janet Boscarino, Bianca Howard, Avi Namani. Thank you so much for joining us today, for being partners with us on this mission to really change the thinking from a reactive to a preventative mindset of litter and making some change to clean this world up. So thank you all so much. It's top of the hour now, so enjoy the rest of your day and hope to see you soon. Take care, everybody.